Good evening, everybody. Graveless here, bringing you Getting Started with Terra Invicta. For those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, this is a recreation of my first video to celebrate Terra Invicta 1.0's release and also to update that video, both with more things I have learned doing YouTube and also more things I've learned about the game as things go on, and there's some more options. So, what is Terra Invicta? Terra Invicta is a grand strategy game about defending the Earth from an alien invasion. Think XCOM, but grand strategy where you care far more about your logistics and overall control of Earth's resources than you do about the nitty-gritty of tactical warfare. I love the XCOM series, I adore Terra Invicta, it's one of my favorite games of all time at this stage. Anyway, getting into it. We're going to start off with the main menu. This is where you're going to spawn in. Continue will load your most recent save. New game, I think everyone knows what new game is. Load game, same. You can go into your settings to adjust graphics, audio, gameplay, controls, yada yada yada. One thing that I would recommend for most players is make sure you are using compressed save files. It's beneficial to send the devs logs with uncompressed save files, but if you want to read them yourself, you can also do that, but it's nicer, you get better load times if you use compression. Another thing I would recommend is to select Show Monthly Incomes. By default, I believe the game will spawn in with daily incomes. I find monthly gives you an overall better picture of where your resources are going to be going, and also it's the one that the community tends to default to. You might be very confused if you see something like, get 10,000 research, and you're like, a day? That's an insane amount to have a day. Yes, it would be. Less insane to have monthly, though. Skirmish allows you to test out the combat system of the game for the tactical combat layer of ship-on-ship combat. You can select your color, doesn't really matter. You can add player ships from default designs or import one of your saves to test actual designs that you've been using against actual designs the enemy has in that save. You can specify, the backdrop. Is there a space hab there too? This is a space station. Enable the tutorial and cinematic versus realistic combat scaling. These are two different ways that your ships can be controlled and spend their fuel and how far away they are. But we'll get to that in later videos. You can enable disable mods, you can view credits. So, let's go into new game. Starting off, we have 3 scenarios for the game. 2022, 2026, and 2070. 2022 uses Earth statistics at the time when the game entered early access, I believe with some predictions for the future from the devs about what was really going on. Very notably, I believe they predicted, in a way that very few others called, just what would happen with Russia and Ukraine and Russia's relative chances of succeeding in that war so quickly. Boy, does this game make for interesting discussions if you follow the news at all. But, going on, 2026. Updated scenario that it uses more current day figures for each of the nations. Of the two, I currently feel the 2026 scenario is overall better balanced, but most guides you see online are going to be based off the 2022 scenario. At least for a while. 2070 is a more advanced scenario where you start with some space assets. Earth starts slightly more unified. I believe a good chunk of the EU has unified into one nation, along with a fair number of other changes. It is, in many ways, a very balanced scenario, because in this one, the developers can just put in what figures they think would make sense, and then we deal with that fact. But it's one that I haven't played very much, so I'm not really going to speak about it all that much. Going on, we have how many objects in the solar system are we going to be simulating in-game? Full solar system goes up to 360. It does, in fact, have a performance impact, most notably when transfers are going on. If you have a weaker machine, I recommend doing either medium or light solar system. Minimal causes some weird constraints with the game and your limits on mining. I would actually really recommend, if you can, play full or medium, but you might not have a machine capable of handling it. The reason for this is that the game has a total number of resources available in the solar system, and as the number of bodies goes down, that total remains the same, making every individual body net richer as you shrink solar system size. Similar to most guides being about 2022, most are also going to be talking about the full solar system resource amounts. That's primarily what I play on. Continuing on, Grand Strategy game. We have 8 factions in total, 7 of which are playable. If we go down to 3, you will notice there are 2 playable factions, Resist and Submit, along with the Alien faction. Play the game with 8 factions unless you know what you're doing and are doing something weird. Basically, every bit of advice is going to assume you're doing this. You do get some more resources, like your resource caps in certain regards increase on smaller faction games, just so that the net amount of control of Earth remains relatively static. The game's most fun when you have all the factions in it. The factions are actually really cool. They each have their own philosophy as a idea of, the different ways that people would react to an alien invasion suddenly occurring. Because the first thing that happens in the game is an alien ship crashes down, and everyone notices this. After that, select your faction. So, let's go through the factions briefly, what their philosophy is, what their main gameplay theory about what they're doing is. I'm not going to be giving any spoilers in this video about things in mid or late game, and I'm going to try and avoid the early game ones as much as I can, because it's really fun to let you figure that out on your own. So first off, the Resistance. The Resistance is the default faction, is the tutorial faction. You are protecting humanity by resisting the alien invasion. The Resistance does not want to be a secret cabal ruling over the world for their own benefit. They want to get rid of the aliens and then go back to the way things are going. They are on in faction alignment. They are on the good guy side. I think there's solid arguments that the Resistance is one of the most good guy factions in game. There's really only 2, I feel, that can really make a claim to that. But yeah, Resistance is very solid. The big things the Resistance gets is they are because they're members of the status quo, they're trying to protect humanity, they're trying to work generally with how things are. They get more benefits towards government organizations and direct abilities to fight the aliens, take control of things, and, you know, protect the world. They are also the only ones who can enable the tutorial. I do recommend trying the tutorial at least once to figure out what's going on. Next up, Humanity First. Eradicate the aliens and all those who support them. Suffer not the Xeno to exist, and reward a traitor as a traitor deserves. Humanity First is the anti-alien extremist faction. They are harder to play than the Resistance, because as an extremist faction, they have a harder time gaining public support for what I'm going to consider obvious reasons. And their win conditions are a bit more difficult than the Resistance because they are at war not only with the aliens, but with any who would help the aliens. The Resistance will wind up at war with many of those factions because they want to beat the aliens. Humanity First would be at war with them because they find their philosophies abhorrent and want to kill all of them. I think this is a perfectly... this is a philosophy that would exist. Humanity First is very interesting to play. Their big thing is they're incredibly good at murder. They are good at murder, they are good at breaking into nations. Not necessarily peacefully taking them over, but taking them over more forcefully, and stabbing. Or shooting, as the case may be. Continue down. The Initiative. The Initiative are the classic Illuminati. Exploit the alien rival to gain power. They are CEOs, narco-state leaders, kingpins. What they are here to do is to enrich themselves and grow their own power by exploiting the chaos of the alien invasion. They are, it is really hard for me to say which of them or Humanity First is the most evil faction in game, but it's one of these 2, in my personal opinion. Their difficulty is about the same as the Resistance, where they and the Resistance do a lot of the same things via different methods. And they're both strong in different ways, so yeah, Resistance Initiative, if you've played one, you will be able to beat the game with the other. It will just take you down a fairly different path in certain regards. Continuing on. Well, I suppose we'll do the order there. The Servants. The Servants are the game's easy mode. Your job is to support the alien invasion and help the alien invasion succeed. You want to fight off the resistance in humanity first, make sure they don't control Earth, help out the aliens, and honestly, explaining a lot of their plot would be spoilers that I'm going to try and avoid. The big thing for the Servants, as it stands to new players, is that if you want to get a good bit of training in on your Earth game, specifically controlling nations, strengthening them, building them up, doing unifications, splitting nations apart, play a Servant game. You get a lot of benefits from the aliens, you know, supporting you because they want to succeed at taking over Earth, and you're there saying, hey boss, have you noticed me? Senpai, please notice me. And yeah, they're a good practice faction for learning the Earth game. The Protectorate. The Protectorate is the faction that I personally think is, if this happened in real life, one of the more realistic factions. The Protectorate has the belief of, a higher tech invader that has access to FTL now has control of our orbit. We cannot win this fight. We need to negotiate the best surrender arrangement we possibly can. I find their actual gameplay frustrating around this, but I find the beginning of game philosophy to at least be, I'm like, I can understand why people would have this opinion. This is a video game where fighting off the alien invasion with, you know, spaceship you built in a cave with a box of scraps is entirely possible. So they lose a lot of their logic as a result of that, but I mean, it can be fun. They do have a very unique endgame compared to everyone else. I'm not going to spoil it, but you can look it up yourself. Then they have a very unique tech that a lot of people want to exist in other factions. In terms of their early game protection, they're the faction that actually has the easiest time gaining control of nations and, annoyingly for the player, good for them, keeping control of nations. So there's that. I'm going to come back to the Academy in a second. We're going to start with Project Exodus. Project Exodus has a very simple theory. Humanity needs to become a multi-planetary species. In fact, we need to become a multi-solar system species, and this goal is more important than literally anything else. Exodus is in a unique space in that I believe they're the only one, like, they have some of the easiest time doing diplomacy among human factions for all factions in the game, because no one, like, the two pro-alien factions will not like them. That's kind of it. They can actually make a reasonable degree of peace with everyone else, which is pretty unique. Actually, sorry, I think the initiative can do that too. But Exodus has a completely different victory condition than any of the other anti-alien factions, and that they want to build a giant arc ship and leave. Is this possible? Play their plot, find out. Their big thing is they're the faction that gets the most benefits for getting into space and doing things in space. And then the Academy. The Academy is a group that believes that, obviously we are all sentient beings who can come to a nice accord over what is going on. They are the game's hard mode. Take basically any mechanic in the game. The Academy is going to suffer from the effects of that mechanic more, and they get very few things to counterbalance this. They do get one very, very nice thing, which is that they are the faction with the highest research bonus in the game. They get more science, they get more raw research than everyone else. That's about it. That's about it. I actually like the Academy a lot. They're basically the proto-Federation from Star Trek in a lot of regards, and, like, philosophically, that's what they want to do. But boy, is that hard to pull off when there's an active invasion going on and you are on the losing end of the tech balance. Also, one thing I like doing is what is the tea of the day. The tea of the day today is cookies and cream. It is a nice dessert tea. A little bit of caffeine, which is not necessarily the best idea, but, you know, it is what it is. Next up, we have Select Game Difficulty. So Forgiving, previously known as Cinematic Mode, is the easy mode of the game. I really do not think learning on this difficulty is a good idea because it gives you so many free benefits that you're not going to have on normal. Trying things out early on with the intent of, like, I would like to learn, you know, how to do space exploration on space expansion on Forgiving, and then go back to normal to do your real game, sure. Test things out, sure, but this game is long enough even on Forgiving that I think you are, like, if you like grand strategy games, and also if you like the type of plot, you are doing yourself a disservice not playing normal, but you do you. Going on, we have normal. This is what I recommend people start out with. It is the normal difficulty of the game. One important note for things that are really fun about this game. The AI really doesn't cheat. It plays by all the same rules you do. You can look at its resources and see exactly what it's doing, and just go. On normal in particular, there are slight buffs to the AI on veteran and brutal, but compared to any other 4X and grand strategy game, these buffs are so minor that I really can barely call them buffs. An important thing about this is the AI will roll low % chances that a player will say are a waste of resources, and this can cause some weird things to happen in early game, where you, the player, will say, why would I spend literally my entire resource pool on a 40% chance to be annoying to the player? Sometimes the AI will do that, and sometimes it wins. It is what it is. Going up to Veteran, the AI get a few buffs, most notably with this. As you increase in difficulty level, the alien AI gets mad at you earlier. Discovering that is part of the fun about the game, so I'm not going to go into great details in this video about that. I do have other videos that cover that. Going up to Brutal, Brutal is rough. Brutal is, you know, quite difficult. You need to know what you're doing with the game in order to succeed at Brutal. I prefer playing on Veteran just because I don't want to have to optimize as much as I need to on Brutal. I have beaten Brutal on most of the factions. I still have never won as the Servants or the Protectorate because I don't really like playing them that much. Next up, start long campaign, start accelerated campaign, and customize. So, I recommend long campaign. The reason why is accelerated campaign makes everything faster. And what that means is if you know what you're doing, you're going to win faster. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose faster and have less time to make up for your mistakes. You could probably expect to see your first victory screen somewhere between 60 and 80 hours of playing the game. At least I think that's roughly the average. And then customize campaign. So each faction has some default professions their counselors will have. If you customize your campaign, you get to instead pick your professions. I would recommend just if you're going to look at this at all, do random from defaults for your first game. Random from defaults will guarantee you get the two most important things out of your starting counselors. There are a few other options. So variable project unlocks. If unchecked, all factions that have a chance to be unlocked will be unlocked and eventually become available. If checked, they won't. Variable project unlocks is on by default, and it makes the game play different sometimes because maybe you don't get a project when you want it that you're always used to, or maybe you have to go down a different drive line. Show-triggered projects will display whether or not you are capable of unlocking the project and you're just waiting for it to come online. I'd say don't turn this on until you actually know what the projects do. Fellow Citizen Counselor. If the game knows where you are, it will make one of your first counselor from your home nation. This is especially strong if you live in the US, China, or India. Otherwise, it's a cool fluff thing. Cinematic combat scaling and cinematic combat movement. Change how combat works. Let me just go into this. I believe normal starts with cinematic on. Probably keep that for normal, unless you are a hard sci-fi junkie who finds certain things annoying. But overall, moving off cinematic combat will make combat, on average, harder for you, easier if you know what you're doing. Add Alien Invasion Fleet dramatically accelerates what the aliens are doing. This is another way to toggle the game being harder for yourself. Don't start out with that. Starting Nation Group lets you start out with full control of a specific nation or group of nations to just start out with this. If you want to play a particular group of nations, you can. I think you should not do this for your first game so you learn how the game works, and I think if you do this, other factions should also receive groups, otherwise you're just doing hyper easy mode. All of these sliders change around what's going on. In fact, this is where you can see how the AI gets some buffs. So, normal mode, you start with 125. The AI gets no bonuses. All research is at 100. All other sliders are at 100%. Average monthly events are 5, and yada yada yada. Bumping up to veteran, the AI get 50 extra control points and 20 extra mission control. This is to balance the fact that they're not as good at prioritizing certain technologies as the player is. Brutal, these numbers increase further. This is primarily giving them enough that you are never going to be able to lock them out of things by being clever. But let us move on from starting this. I'm just going to randomize from defaults and start a new game. I will see you all after the loading screen. And welcome back. This is going to be the view that you wind up playing the majority of the game at. So, let's go around this UI. Okay, I'm just confirming on OBS that you can, in fact, see my mouse. So, going around the UI, what things mean, and how to handle them. These ... settings menu. And also, hit your escape key to get to that. Next to that is your faction icon. You click on this, and you will see what your current faction objectives are and what your general objectives are. I do recommend reading this. If you load into a game that you haven't seen in a while, it's a good way to check things out. Click the question mark. You go into the codex. This game has a very good internal wiki. If you have a question about what something is, or what's going on, you can click around here to see what's happening. This includes things like what mission types there are, what the attacking and defending modifiers are on mission types, and the effects of different priorities in the game. Next up, you have your money. This is both your current money, and if you have a money income, your money income. Money is spent on a lot of things. The main thing it's spent on for a lot of the game is buying yourself organizations, which we will get to in a moment. It's also spent on a lot of space assets, and can be spent improving your nations. Next up, we have influence. Influence is political capital, social capital, sway institutions, yada yada yada. It's the main resource for controlling nations. It is the main resource for recruiting new council members. Counselors are your units in this game, basically. And it is also useful for buying certain organizations. Next up, we have operations. Operations, or ops, as they're usually called, are your ability to do espionage and clandestine operations in combat. This is where you want to kill someone, you want to do a hostile takeover, you want to attack an alien. All of that comes from ops. Ops are something that is very important to eventually get a big income of, but at the start of the game you can basically ignore them. Influence, you really need at the early game. Boost. Boost is your ability to lift things from Earth into space, along with a amount of stuff that you have in space that will be specified when you use it. How this game handles logistics is it mostly says your faction is full of very intelligent people who will have sent up the correct thing to be at the correct location, because actually managing a full logistics tray across the entire solar system would both explode computers and also would not be very fun. Boost is one representation of that. Mission control. Mission control affects how many space assets you can have. You are able to go above your mission control, you start getting some pretty severe penalties if you do this. It's primarily built on Earth nations for quite some time, and eventually you get more from space. Research. This is how many research points you're producing. We will go over research in a second for what it's used for, but if you're watching this video, you have probably played a 4X game before. There's a tech tree. Control point cap. This is the maximum amount of... Excuse me. This is how many nations we can control. Now, a nation has a control point value. So let's go to the Bahamas. If we hover over this, we can see cost against cap 2.25. So the Bahamas cost you 2.25 out of our 149 cap. Let's check Canada. Canada has 4 points, each of which costs 12.26. You can see where this is going. This primarily controls how many Earth nations you're able to keep control of at one time. If you exceed your cap, all of your defenses against people taking control of your nations go down, and your influence income goes down. You can exceed the cap by a little bit, don't exceed it by a lot, or you're going to just very quickly no longer be exceeding the cap. Water, volatiles, metals, noble metals, and fissiles are the main space resources you have at the start of the game. These values are all about how many of these resources have you mined in space and are available for doing something in space. You eventually want to get good values on all of these. An important thing to note, noble metals and fissiles are much rarer than the other three. The other three exist roughly at the same rate. These two, significantly rarer. Continuing on, we have another question mark to go to the codex. We have our current year and current time, and we have the game is paused. You can click this and set alarms for, you know, specific times, specific dates for the game to automatically pause when this comes on. It's a useful feature. I just found out about it recently, so I don't have too many recommendations about it, but it also does let you go click into the calendar to show you things that happen regularly. Going down, we have an Earth view. There are many different ways you can view Earth view. I have a favorite one that is a spoiler, so I'm not going to talk about it, but, like, oh look, here's per capita GDP. America, super wealthy. Singapore, fantastically wealthy. Afghanistan, not so much. North Korea, not so much. I'd just leave it at nations at first. Continuing down, on the left-hand side, we have a feed of important notifications for things you might know that don't require complete pop-ups. Any pop-up usually also goes to this feed. Here, we go to Earth. If we click this button, we view the entire solar system, look at how many space objects there are. You can zoom in and out. Let's say we want to go look at Saturn. You click on Saturn, you start zooming into Saturn. Oh no, we want to go back to Earth. Let's go back to that Go to Earth button. Here we go. Next up, we have our council. Our counselors are our units in this game. There are actors on Earth, and every turn there'll be a pause period. Then you select what they're going to do for the next weekly, bi-weekly, tri-weekly, or quadri-weekly, monthly, whatever, cycle for what actions are they taking. On this screen, you can view your entire council. You start game able to recruit 4 counselors. You will eventually research technologies that let you recruit your 5th and your 6th. Over in the lower right are counselors that you have convinced to become traitors to their human faction. You'll be able to view them here, see what they have equipped, see what they're doing. Let's go into our counselors to explain who they are and what they're doing. All right. I apologize if I butcher names. So we have Faichi Chen, or Ken? I'm not sure. He's a spy. Your class determines what missions you have available and what your starting stats are. I have a much more in-depth video on counselors. If you want to go into that, I'm going to go very quickly. Now we have his age. What old is he? How likely is he to die, you know, over the course of the game? We have his hometown, which matters for certain traits. We have how much XP he currently has. We have his current location. On the left-hand side, we have his traits. Undercover, aware, low profile, transparent, and crew. Hover over the trait to see what the trait's doing. There are other videos explaining really good traits to look for. Next up, let's talk about his missions. Missions are what the counselor can do, and it's great that we have Spy because Spy has a tremendous number of missions available. First, uncontested. These just work. Survey a location, see whether or not, increase the amount of knowledge you have around a location, including adjacent regions. Investigate alien activity. This is an important mission for your plot. Next up, Control Nation. Control Nation is the mission that is most important at the start of the game. It is what you use to take control of a nation. In Terra Invicta, you are a secret society. You are not an official government anywhere. You instead advise official governments, blackmail official governments, whatever you want to do based off what your faction is. Control Nation is the way you turn an unconverted nation into a nation you have. Public campaign raises support in the nation, making it more likely any other mission succeeds. Turn counselor is how you get traitors from enemies. We can go over more of these missions later, more detail in the counselor video. Now, you will see stats. Persuasion. Persuasion is also over here. His persuasion stat controls how likely he is to succeed at any of these 4 missions. It also increases the amount of influence generation he has from anything he has that generates influence, and improves your control point cap by 1. All stats cap at 25 unless a trait would modify their cap. Investigation helps with his investigation missions. Crack down and investigate counselor. It also is a passive chance to give you a little bit of intelligence on anyone in the same region as the counselor, or adjacent ones at a much lower chance. Espionage helps espionage missions. It also is the difficulty of someone finding your counselor or gaining more information about them. Espionage is both an offensive and defensive trait, and is very useful to have on basically everyone once you get above, 5 or so because of that. Command, similar to the other things, helps command missions. These are primarily military missions or things that adjust how a nation operates. It also improves your ops income and your CP cap. Administration. Administration controls how many orgs you can equip. Its value is the total number of stars of orgs. So his admin 2 means he could have 2 stars of orgs equipped in total, either 2 1-star orgs or 1 2-star org. Admin has a mission that it can help you with, which is stealing orgs, and it also improves your CP cap. So if you want a counselor to provide a maximum of 75 CP cap, rank them up to 25 persuasion, 25 command, 25 administration. Don't do this until the end of the game. Or, well, later in the game. It's very expensive and not worth it compared to other increases. Science is complicated. It improves his research income. Every 5 points improves your monthly chance of unlocking a project that your faction can, and a project unlock chance. And high scores will also help you defend against weird things the aliens do. I'm not going to tell you what those weird things are, but you do want some counselors with high science on your council. High science also lets you trigger better events when events are happening. Science also is not control missions, but when you advise a nation, your science is a percentage boost to that nation's research output. Security is a purely defensive trait. It impacts how hard it is to do things to your counselor. Your council's average security is also used as your defense for quite a few things. In particular, events and some nation defenses. For that matter, administration is defensive against its own mission. More on that later. And then apparent loyalty. Unless you investigate him, you don't know what his real loyalty is. This is what the loyalty was the last time we knew. Actually, he's transparent. We know exactly what his loyalty is. Read your traits. Let's go to our other council. Yeah, this is what you see where you think her loyalty is 6. This means that at some point, maybe you investigated her to see what her loyalty was, or something else. You can investigate her and figure it out. You really do not want anyone on your council to have a loyalty of less than 10. It allows for really obnoxious events to trigger and cause bad things to happen. Also, that's how you get traitors, which, if you have a traitor in your council, the person who turned them knows everything. You really do not want a traitor in your council. Alright, continuing down. Here are the monthly incomes in everything he has an income of. COGS are engineering projects, which is part of research. We'll get to that during research. Over here, we have the orgs that he currently has equipped. Like, let us click Vela Services. You can see it is headquartered in a region. This mostly does not matter unless it does. It grants him the Protect Target mission, which he did not have. Costs 1 money per month, and gives him +1 security. So, let us purchase this and equip it. Security 6. Security 7. Also, it's now green because it's boosted. Orgs are your council's equipment. The main thing that you are going to use orgs for in most games is to either grant you an income. This is a monthly income of 0.5 boost per month. Improve your stats. This is for 2 stars of admin functionally, +2 investigation, +2 espionage, and +1 security. Or improve the resources that a nation or your space economy gives you. This gives you +6% to knowledge investments in nations. Plenty of more in-depth org video too, but just know you can hover over it and see what it does. Most of them are monthly incomes. Some of them grant you important missions. Here we go. Counselor must have these traits. Criminal. Only a criminal can take charge of the Moonflower Cartel. Let's go into Augment. Augment lets you spend XP to either improve the traits, gain traits, or lose them. Here we can spend 10 XP to get a monthly income of 3 per month. This is terrible, don't do it. Just warning you. Spend 10 XP for +1 security. This is actually pretty good, because normally raising security costs 20 XP. This instead gives you a trait that raises your security. Every point by default costs 20 XP to raise. We can also add Government, which lets you equip Government orgs. Criminal, which lets you equip Criminal orgs. Or Streetwise, which gives you Home Nation, Investigation, Security, and just general espionage. Streetwise, a lot depends on Home Nation. If I were playing a game where I was going after China and I had him, Streetwise actually kind of useful. If instead he was from, say, Paraguay, and I was playing a game where I was going after the United States and China, not so useful. Everything is contextual. You can go very in-depth. Let's go look at more traits for our activist. So she's a lot older. She's liable to die during game. Her class gives her far fewer missions. You can see Spy gives you a scroll bar of missions. Activist does not. It does, however, give you all of the relevant persuasion missions, and her job is to be persuasive. So, start of game, there is no reason to save her XP. I would almost immediately just max out her persuasion. I just look through her traits to see if there's anything useful. A trait like Demagogue is important because these +1 persuasion in a certain category stacks with your existing persuasion and can let you break the cap. Sometimes this is very important, but also, it costs 60, it maxes out at +3 persuasion. That ain't worth it compared to just getting +3 persuasion unless you were going for a nation where education is 6 or less and cohesion is 4 or less. Probably not worth it. You can also remove bad traits through doing this. The costs all vary. I'm just going to do this. This is what I would do with her immediately. Next up, recruiting. On, I think it's either the end of the 1st or the 2nd of every month, you will gain more counselors to recruit in the recruiting tab. You can view the recruiting tab even if your council is full, because you can always fire someone. Augment, customize, dismiss for fire. And then you recruit someone new. Now, your faction has professions it is good for and professions it is bad for. This is one of the main differences. As the Resistance, we can easily recruit officers, scientists, and another officer from these, which is why they cost 30. These guys, commandos, fixers, professors, and celebrities, are all default 60. I don't recall off the top of my head which ones the Resistance is bad at recruiting, which cost 120 influence. Start of the game, what you're looking for primarily is councils with persuasion and control nation. If you're more advanced, there's other things you can do where you might start caring about traits, but start of the game, look for that so you can start taking control of nations. I'm just going to recruit this man because he can do the thing, and I'm going to show you a little bit more of what's going on in the game with that. Just to level this up. Org management is a more advanced screen for moving your orgs around to transfer them between counselors easily. Monthly ledger shows you all of your incomes, where they're coming from, and allows you to sort. Like, we can see that RHQ is giving us most of our CP cap. She is giving us 16, and these two are giving 11 and 10 respectively. And calendar tells you the calendar, so yeah. Counselor pool updates and mission assignment phase. Nations. This shows you all the nations in the world, or when you control nations, you can toggle it down to only those you have. Sort alphabetically. Sort by total control point cost. Sort by how liked we are in that nation already. Sort by, I'm trying to remember what this global, how liked the most liked faction is. Sort by its monthly investment points, which is roughly describing its industrial capacity and economic capacity. Sort by how much money you would get if you control it. Sort by how much boost you get if you can control it. How much MC, how much research, population, government score, education score, inequality, current cohesion, current unrest, sustainability, yada yada. You can sort a lot, and it's useful for finding things out. Habs. Habs matter once you're in space. At the start of the game, only the Academy and Exodus are in space. And this was generally regarded as a mistake, because they don't have a good ability to, like, they're not getting that much from being in space at the beginning of the game, except consuming their MC cap. Ships, similarly, you go here to see all of your ships, design ships, and construct ships. We can't do that yet. Research. Research screen has 6 slots. The top 3 are global researches that all factions contribute to. You can see how much each faction has contributed, and you can adjust how much you're investing by clicking left and right clicking here. If you invest in more than one global research, you get a bonus to your total research points. So, like, we're only in 1, 37.6, 39.4 when we're in 2, 41.2 when we're in 3, but your relative value goes down. If you're the majority contributor of a global research, you get to pick what goes into that slot next on the tech tree. The tech tree is enormous. I have some videos that are probably out of date on it, but it's an enormous tech tree that is very in-depth. Notably, this is not the full tree. This is the global technologies tree. There are also projects, which are your faction-only technologies, that get a boost to how many cogs you have for what percent research points they get. So, like, we are doing 1.177 per day here, 1.236 because we have plus 5% by default. You can change projects to swap around to whichever ones you want. You can favorite them to push them to the top of the list automatically. You can obsolete them to hide them and never see them again. Or, you know, uncheck this to show obsolete. Start of the game, I recommend trying to complete We Are Not Alone as quickly as you can. This is because it unlocks some very useful technologies. Faction modifiers will tell you everything currently going on and the price for doing things. So you can see we have plus 5% to boost priority, and we can found platforms. Continuing on, we have Intel. This tells you what we know about the other human factions, which is, right now, nothing. Intel on the aliens, also nothing. Global statistics that tells you overall how popular a faction is, Earth's population, how many people are in space, GDP, all sorts of things. Climate change is down here. It is modeled simply, but I feel it... Mostly, climate change tends to make things worse for most Earth nations. Solar system prospecting is a very useful tab once you have the ability to tell what the resources are available on a given site. And the transfer planner helps you figure out how to navigate space. I'm now going to explain how to do things. So, first turn of the game, I'm going to do things that I do not recommend, but to show you fast. We want to control nation. I am going to go and control the nations that I have the highest success chance of controlling.
Establishing our presence.
The reason for this is to show you how nation management works.
Bringing them to our side.
In reality, I'm going to have one person investigate alien activity. In reality, you should be much more focused in what you're doing, but I'm just showing you this right now so we can go to the UI. Once that's done, we unpause. I move up to 5x speed, so we go very quickly. All right. I'm not going to go over this. This is an event. Events give you different choices for what you want to do. You can hover over it to see the exact effect. I'm going to pick Ops. Alright, we have completed Investigate Alien Activity. This gives us our first bit of plot. We also get rewarded with 20 Science and 20 Influence. This is a new project is available. So I'm going to close, go into Research, change project to Alien Signatures, and put 1 pip into it.
Our supporters are in place.
And we now have a point in Bhutan. This is fine. Nation screen. Quickly going over nations. Up here you have government, which goes from totalitarian to full democracy. The answer is you really don't want to be in the middle. At 0 and at 10 you get the most benefits for your government. However, there are more important things to do as long as you are not in anocracy, in which case you want to take where you are and get out of it as soon as possible. In the case of Bhutan, which is at 5.7, we would raise our government score because that is closer than dropping it. Unrest. Unrest also scales from 0 to 10. It gives you a penalty to your IP, so the nation can do less, and a penalty to your research as it goes up. Unrest also impacts a lot of missions to control nations. You generally want it to be 0. For a large number of nations, it will not be resting at 0. You can see our rest state in the paragraph there is 7.2. Every month it will change by plus 0.25 until it gets up to 7.2, and we will have to spend actions or resources lowering it. And lastly, GDP. GDP affects how much IP the nation has. As we see, our 11 billion GDP gives us 2.3 investment points per month. We are the resistance. We have complete control of this nation, so we have complete control of where its IP goes. Here is how much money it gives you. This is called funding. How much monthly research it gives, monthly boost, and the total mission control. The number in the parentheses is its mission control cap. The number outside is its total mission, is its current mission control. Moving over, atop military, I believe works on a 2x log curve, so a full point of military means that that army is twice as good. Navies are used to send your armies around the world rather than to merely adjacent regions. This is how many nukes you have. Very few nations start with nukes. This is how many armies you have. Relatively few nations start with armies. Continuing down, under people, total population. More population, generally better. GDP per capita. This is an important value because this goes into your resting unrest calculation and your resting cohesion. It's possible to have a huge amount of GDP per capita, like Singapore, and less GDP than Vietnam, purely because, Vietnam has 102 million people. Singapore has 5 million people. Singapore never going to deal with unrest, but it has, less IP than Vietnam because it has less GDP. Sustainability. This goes from 0, which is perfectly polluting, to 10, which does not pollute at all. At the start of the game, it has a cap of, it actually depends on does it depend on the nation? No, 3.18. Where going from 1 to 2 halves the amount of pollution you emit. Going from 2 to 4 is another halving, and you can see how this works with, mathematical curves. Education level. Education level affects the nation's research points. It scales by this value squared until it hits 12. If you want a nation to be good for research, get to 12 as soon as possible, then start investing in other things. Inequality. This is basically just the Gini coefficient for the nation. Lower inequality means the people are happier, or rather, are happier, and you get higher cohesion. Cohesion represents, in this, the current amount that the members of the nation are unified. Ha America right now. US is not very good in that regard. At 1.1. China, substantially better. the main points for cohesion that you care about for important breakpoints are 0, 2, and 5. If cohesion goes below 0, it starts affecting unrest and government score directly, pushing them bad. Cohesion 2 is the point where declaring war on someone or being involved in wars improves your cohesion as opposed to doing nothing to it. So, China declares war right now, China gains cohesion. US declares war right now, US does not gain cohesion. You can hover over it to see all of the impacts along with where your resting is. This is big and complicated. Finishing up on UI. Here, you see default configurations for where your IP go. They're mostly bad. You mostly want to do your own thing. They do exist for reasons, though, which is that in real life, people are not like homo economists who is going to make only rational decisions about where their entire nation is spending its raw economic might. So, here you will see which control points you own. You can click to add 1, 2, or 3 points to any given priority. Economy. Hovering over them, you will see overall what happens. Economy gets you more money, also makes inequality worse. Welfare reduces inequality. Environment improves your sustainability. Knowledge increases your education and pushes your cohesion towards 5. This is that last breakpoint on cohesion. At cohesion 5, you gain a bonus to all of your research output. It scales basically on absolute value, so cohesion 10 and cohesion 0 are equally bad for your research output, with cohesion 5 being the best. Government improves your government score. Notably, government is multiplied by your education stat. So, if two nations, one has education 5 and the other has education 10, the education 10 will democratize twice as quickly. Unity improves your cohesion, improves your faction's public support, or public opinion, which improves your faction's chances of doing something in that nation, and also decreases education. Unity you usually want to spend in bursts when you suddenly need a lot of public support, and otherwise ignore. Like, mostly you want to focus these on things you currently want and ignore everything else. Oppression reduces unrest and decreases democracy. And in nations that are not already totalitarian or authoritarian, it will also decrease your cohesion. So, if you're authoritarian, you can oppress your way out of unrest and not have to waste counselor actions. If you are not, well, it's a way to become authoritarian. Funding improves your funding, which is the passive amount of money the nation will grant you every month. Spoils makes inequality worse. It makes government and inequality and sustainability worse in exchange for money now. Early game, you're going to be running a lot of spoils to afford things. Late, you want to avoid doing this as much as you can in nations that you don't want to wreck. Found Space Program allows you to build mission control and boost. Some nations start with a space program, like China. They instead build mission control or boost. Bhutan does not have a space program. But if you are a nation that is in a federation with a nation with a space program, like, say, Estonia, you can use the fact that France has a space program to build either boost or mission control. You can also build your own and then leave the federation, but, not a good idea. Military improves your military rating. Build army creates a new army. A nation may have one army per region it has. So, looking at Vietnam, we can go over to regions. Vietnam has 2 regions. It may have 2 armies. If you have an army, you may build a navy for it once the nation is sufficiently wealthy and large and wealthy, which allows you to cross the ocean. And nuclear weapons. It costs 40 IP to build a new nuclear weapon, or 80 to develop your first one. So China here, with its 34 IP per turn, could almost build a nuke per turn if you wanted to do that, or a nuke per month, not per turn, per month, if you wanted to do that. Left tab, you can see your armies. You can click on them to select them and give them orders when you have them. Armies are more expensive. Armies all cost IP to maintain. If you look at China's IP, we can see armies in their home region are reducing its IP by 0.5 per army. Navies are also reducing it. When your army is deployed, it costs you more IP. So there's a question of how many armies you want for how costly they are. Policies allows you to see what you can do with a set policy mission in that nation. This is something where you gain more the longer you're in control of it. If we go to Bhutan right here, you see 90 days, that is how long it takes for me to unlock all policies. Right now, I can't really do anything. Regions lets you look at the regions and the region stats. Counselors lets you see who is in that nation. And relations lets you see who you're at war with, who's an ally, and who's a rival. We'll get more in depth on those when we go over nations. Lastly, a really nice feature that not people know about. Over here we can see our percent of IP investment from this. 33% economy, 33% environment, 33% spoils. That's a terrible thing to do, but show it. Clicking the share button swaps us over to how many IP per month will go into that. Another thing to note, some of these cost more IP per month than others. So like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 50, 180. And percent bonus. Through orgs, through research projects, through counselor traits, and through what other things you're investing in, you will get a bonus to IP investment, where, 1 plus 0.7 turns to 1.07. We remove economy, things shift around. This is because the economy priority gives you a pretty substantial bonus to everything else, especially in the early game. Welfare, by itself, 25% bonus, no economy, no bonus. So, if we did this, welfare gets 1.1 and economy gets 1.3, generating 2.7 IP in total, as opposed to the 2.3. Early game, this actually matters a fair bit, particularly for economy. Later in the game, what bonuses you have researched and what bonuses you have gotten matter substantially more. And let me see, is there anything else? I did intel, and there's an event summary that you can see a summarization of events throughout the game. There's a lot to this game. I'm going to go through here to show a couple of other things, just clicking through very quickly about missions. And that will be the end of our getting started video showing off the UI. All right. Yep. A week has passed, so we're getting a new phase. A note, the AI makes all their calls before you do anything. So, control nation. Targets a nation. If we want to improve our chances of controlling nation, we may spend resources with this bar right over here. This allows me to spend up to 64 unity to boost our chances. Other things target different things. So Crackdown targets a particular control point in a nation. I'm not sure there's any that have 2 that we can select right now. Does not look like it. No. But so Crackdown, we would go to, let's say, South Korea. Crackdown this point. Purge also targets a point. Coup targets a nation. And you're going to continue seeing this where missions target different things. If they are grayed out, you do not have a valid target right now for that counselor. And that is pretty much it for our basic tutorial of Terra Invicta and the UI. The actual game tutorial will also show you some of this off, but I hope this video was useful to you. I hope you enjoy playing the game, and have a good one. Cheers, and 1.0 is coming out. I'm very excited. Bye.